Thank you for holding these hearings. My name is Bert Kelton, Vice President of Lehigh Hanson in Central California. I'm here representing my company and also the National Stone, Sand, and Gravel Association. Lehigh Hanson is a construction materials company. We produce cement, concrete, aggregates, asphalt, building products like precast products like pipe, tile, and brick, and so forth. The NSSGA is the largest mining association in the world, representing about 10,000 sand and gravel mines across the U.S. I just want to focus my comments on two issues. One is the need for aggregates, permitted reserves, and also the need for long-term funding. Americans consume about 3 billion metric tons of aggregates a year. Probably 40% of that goes into roads and bridges, and upwards of 50% or more go into public works projects. As a rule, we consume about 10 tons of aggregates per person per year. And all you need to do is look around your neighborhoods, your homes, your sidewalks, your streets, sewage pipe, everywhere else, and know how much we use aggregates. The reason long-term funding is important to us, not only because the types of projects we're talking about take a lot of time to design and permit and implement, but also the impact it has on our industry when we rely so heavily on, or when a large part of our industry is dependent on government funding. The ups and downs and swings, especially that we've had in the last few years, take a real toll. Our industry is very capital intensive. We spend tens of millions of dollars to build plants, and when the economy moves up and down, it's hard to justify those expenditures. So long-term funding for our industry, which is now down in some parts of the country as much as 70%, is essential to us. The other part of my comment has to do with permitted aggregate reserves, which is becoming a bigger and bigger problem. And when I say permitted reserves, for the most part, I'm talking about locally permitted aggregate reserves. A city like Fresno, the 5th largest city in California, was built largely with aggregates that were produced just a few miles to the north of us off the San Joaquin River. And you go around the country, whatever town you live in or you come from, I would guess that the aggregates for that community came from within a few miles away. Today we're importing aggregates from British Columbia into San Francisco because there are no more reserves permitted. Not that there aren't aggregates there are no more reserves permitted there. In Fresno, a large percent of our aggregates are being hauled from 60 miles away into this market. And there's a report that the state of California put out, and this is the only comment I'm going to read this morning, but the Department of Conservation indicated a few years ago, 2006, said, currently transporting aggregates a distance of 30 miles will increase the FOB price by about $4.50 a ton. For example, to construct 1 mile of 6-lane interstate highway requires about 114,000 tons of aggregate. Transporting this amount of aggregate 30 miles adds $500,000 to the base cost of the material at the mine. So aggregates, as you know, are typically by nature a low unit price material, but a very heavy material. So as soon as you start moving aggregates, the cost of producing those aggregates or getting those aggregates to their final site of construction is significant. So when you're looking at funding dollars, if you're having to move aggregates from out of the country or from 60, 70 miles away, your construction dollars aren't going to go very far. So some of the things that we would be interested in seeing is long-term sustainable funding, limiting diversion of transportation revenues to unrelated uses, simultaneous environmental reviews and time limits for reviews. Currently in California, it takes us anywhere from 10 to 20 years to permit a new aggregate reserve. California has about 30% of its needed reserves permitted to satisfy the next 50 years of demand. Fresno County even less, about 11% is currently permitted. In Fresno County, we're in the process of permitting a new reserve. We're in our 16th year. That reserve will add about 4% of the needed 50-year demand. So we got a long way to go in California to permit enough aggregate reserves to even, whether you're interested in rail or freeways or high-speed rail or bike lanes, you need aggregate, and we don't have enough of it permitted. So one of the other things we'd like to do is encourage the development of local aggregate resources. Not sure how you would do that in your bill, but I think that the impact on the bang for the buck is tremendous. We would support enhanced use of innovative financing, increased tolling, public-private partnerships, some of the things that were spoken of earlier, more intelligent transportation systems, including idle monies previously authorized to work.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to withhold questions. I know people may have, members may have some questions. Let's withhold till we've heard from all the witnesses. And let's go to Mary Klotzbach, and she's with the Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Welcome, and you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Micah, and Congressman Hingham for having this hearing here. I was asked last week to come and speak to you concerning drunk driving, as I'm hearing from all these gentlemen here today that the highways in California play a huge part in our infrastructure. And drunk driving kills many people on our highways every year. In 2009, 10,839 people were killed on our nation's roadways. That's 32% of all the fatalities on the roadways. 950 people in that same year were killed just in the state of California. I came to MAD as a volunteer in 2002 after my son was killed while home on vacation from the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. Matt was in his 3rd year at the academy and was an aspiring pilot. He was the oldest of our 4 children, and he had a passion for life and a passion for people. My work with MAD has included working with someone in my peer in the passage of AB 91 on the use of interlock ignition devices in the state of California. MAD in 2006 started a campaign to eliminate drunk driving. As a profession, I'm a nurse in a trauma center in Walnut Creek, California. I've worked there for 22 years. I've been a nurse for over 30. We use technology every day to save lives. I work in the ICU, I work in the trauma room, and I see the use of technology, and we do that because evidence-based practice shows that it saves lives. Interlock ignition devices is one of the prongs of MAD's campaign to eliminate drunk driving. In July 1st, 2010, that law came into effect in California in 4 counties. It has the potential of saving hundreds of lives a year. MAD has asked this committee to consider in the road safe portion of the bill to assist with funding with NHTSA and the automobile manufacturers and advanced technology. Advanced technology is being developed by the automobile manufacturers in compliance with NHTSA for the advanced technology to be placed in cars. I'd ask this committee to consider the written statements I have here and the documentation that supports that. And when they go to write this act, I ask that they consider supporting that. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for taking a personal tragedy and trying to move forward with positive recommendations for the committee. Let me recognize Peter Ray, and he is the Director of Public Works, and I don't know how you pronounce it.
It's okay.
So, how do you say it? Well, follow me. That's easy.
Thank
follow
you.
me, Ken. Thank you. Welcome, you recognize.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to thank Congressman Denham and his staff for the opportunity to speak today. Thank you very much. And thank you to the whole panel. My name is Peter Rye. Actually, it's pronounced Rye, but I get right all the time. I'm the Director of Public Works for Tuolumne County, which is a small rural county a little bit to the northeast of here. Most known for Yosemite National Park, but we do have a few of us that live there. There's three critical areas that I'd like to see the next transportation bill address. The first would be the time-consuming and costly and lengthy process that we have to go through for projects that we are trying to build within existing right-of-ways that are already owned by the public. It's not like we're out there building roads anymore across virgin landscapes. That might have been the case many years ago. Maybe the state gets to do that once in a while. But local government is trying to just simply improve roads for the safety of our citizens in existing right-of-ways. And when we try to use federal funds, we encounter very costly and lengthy delays getting those done. We realize that the gas tax is a controversial issue. We realize it's going to be difficult for Congress to find additional monies. So we think the best and most strategic approach is to try to make better use of the monies that we already have. To do that, if we could address some of the more onerous components within the environmental process. I'm an environmentalist at heart. We need to protect the environment, but we need to do a more effective job of getting transportation projects cleared and still be good stewards of the environment. That's the goal that I think I would strive to see improved. I happen to be a past president of the County Engineers Association and the current representative to the National Association of County Engineers for the state of California. So many of my remarks today will be coming from platforms that both SEAC and NACE have. We're a very small rural county with only 7 staff. Trying to take on a federal transportation project is a daunting task. We do it nonetheless because when there's 85 to 90, in some cases 100% reimbursement, that's the only way our citizens can get the improvements that we need. We're frequent users of the Bridge Replacement Program, which is a wonderful program, and one of the things I'd like to see is continued in the federal legislation. There's been discussion. There's 111 programs in the bill. And there's been discussion, at least under the last administration, of reducing that down to as few as 6. The concern would be there are some very effective programs in there for rural America, one of them being the Bridge Replacement Program. It works very well. It funds very needed infrastructure. When a bridge goes down, folks, it can be a huge detour, inconveniencing both local citizens and increasing the cost for commercial activity considerably, particularly if you're in our neighborhood and it goes down in one of the mountainous terrains. It can often be 20, 30-mile detour. That's a huge problem. Nationally, about 40% of our bridges are either functionally obsolete or are in need of replacement. So it's a program that is very useful. It's over $170 million in the state of California each and every year, and I think it's one that's deserving of being continued. Some of the other things we'd like to see would be a way to get at the safety programs. As the lady here mentioned, drunk driving is an issue, but 57% of all fatalities occur on rural 2-lane roads. That study continues to come back, study after study continues to come back with that as the single most dangerous portion of the transportation network today. In my part of the world, 2-lane roads is all we have. Certainly many of you travel on urban highways, and much has been done, and to the credit of Caltrans and the Federal Highway Administration, to make those roads safer. But when we see the high accident rates, we need to continue to be vigilant to try to come up with ways to get people home safely. There are 2 key programs currently in the bill, the Highway Safety Improvement Program, HSIP, and the High Risk Rural Roads Program. Both of those programs are key components of the safety projects that we get to do at the local level, and I would like to think that those are things that are useful and Congress could see fit to continue those. One of the, I thought a good example of what we go through in terms of the frustration might be helpful. For those of you who have happened to drive from the Bay Area to Yosemite once or twice, you know Highway 120 is the corridor that you take to get there. Upon getting just to what is known as Priest Grade, there's a local county road that splits off to the south. It's 2.5 miles shorter than Highway 120. Many people take that road. Unfortunately, through the 90s, we had 5 fatal accidents of people being unable to stay on the roads, 14% grade, very narrow lanes, 10.5 feet. And when people were coming down, occasionally they would not stay on the road, and unfortunately when they did,